Hi fam. I haven't made a video in a while and I apologize for that. I've been concentrating on other things. But I'm back now. So I'm going to try to shoot for 2 to 3 videos, 2 to 3 astrology videos a week. And then I'm also going to be making videos about other things, about health and fitness, and things like that. So if you're interested in that, please check it out when I get them up. So, okay, today I'm talking about the Pada, the Upapada, and writing combinations. This is also in Upadesha Sutras of the Jaimini Sutras. This is based on the system of Jaimini astrology. And the writing combinations are combinations that will make someone an author or give them authorship. It does not prelude, or it does not identify how successful you will be in your writing career, or if you will be famous, or if you will be able to make a living by writing or become wealthy by writing. That's something different. That's something called Argala and Raj Yogas. But it will show if you have writing ability and if you will write something, either on your blog, if you write a screenplay, if you write a novel, if you write a video game, you know, things like that. So I'm going to show you how to ascertain if someone has that ability in their chart. And it's pretty simple. So, and that's what I love about Jaimini. He's so simple. A lot simpler than Parashara, and he's very accurate. So, but first I have to show you how to find the Pada, and I'm going to talk about the Pada. The Pada in Jaimini astrology means the foot. That's what it translates as in Sanskrit. And what it is it's the end or the accumulation or the result of your life. That's what it means. And the Pada is, some people call the Pada the Aruda Lagna. Aruda means mirror in Sanskrit. So what they're really saying is the mirror Lagna or the mirror ascendant. But Jaimini never uses those words. He never uses the word Aruda Lagna. So he only talks about the Pada. So the Pada and the Aruda Lagna, if you're a Vedic astrologer, they're the same thing, essentially. But I never use Aruda Lagna because Jaimini never uses it. He never mentions it. He says Pada. And that's really what it is. That's like kind of the accumulation of your life, what you're moving towards, who you're going to end up being, you know, in the latter part of your life, in the second half of your life, more or less. And so that's what it means. Now, the Pada, what's so important about the Pada is the fact that it is equal to the Atmakaraka. And all of the videos I have done previously in Jaimini astrology talks about the Atmakaraka and what it can give you. It can ascertain your deities, your mundane deities, and things like that. Also, it can determine career, which I will talk about in some subsequent videos I'm going to make here soon. So it's very good at doing the career, the Atmakaraka. Now, everything that applies to the Atmakaraka also applies to the Pada. So basically, the Pada is kind of like a secondary Atmakaraka. Okay? Now, in addition to that, in addition to the Pada, there's something called the Upapada. Upa means secondary. So Upapada is the secondary Pada, or the secondary foot. It is also just as important as the Pada. And it can be more important, which I will talk about in a minute. The Upapada, there's a lot of controversy about how to find the Upapada. But I'll get to that later when I talk about the Upapada. Right now I'm going to tell you how to find your Pada, okay? It's very simple. It's based on the ascendant, okay? So all it is you count the number of houses from your ascendant to the Lord of the ascendant. So I have George R.R. Martin's chart up here. I'm going to use him as an example for the authorship, but he'll work great for showing you how to find Upapada, okay? Okay, so let's say your ascendant is Virgo. Here I just got a little example. This is George R.R. Martin's Navamsha, but we'll just use it as a chart just so I can show you this example, okay? So your ascendant is Virgo, and the ruler of Virgo is Mercury. And so you go zodiacally because it's houses, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so you count 9 to the Lord, and then you count 9 from the Lord. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep, Capricorn. So the pada in this example would be Capricorn. Simple, right? You count the amount of houses to the Lord from the ascendant, and then you count the exact same amount of houses from the Lord to the pada. And you always, when you count, you always start with the ascendant, or where, you count where you begin. You begin 1 where you begin. You don't go 1, 2. You say 1, 2, like that. Okay? Easy, right? Okay, there's an exception. Sorry, UPS driver. Okay, there's an exception to this rule. If, let's say, okay, we'll use George R.R. Martin as an example, his regular chart, because it's perfect. His ascendant is Taurus. So we count 1, 2, 3, 4 to Venus in Leo. That's 4, okay? Now, if the ruler of the ascendant is in the 4th house or the 10th house from the ascendant, the pada always goes to the 4th house. That's a rule, okay? If the ruler of the ascendant is either in the 4th or the 10th house, then the pada is always in the 4th house from the ascendant. That's one exception. The other exception is if the ruler of the ascendant is in the 1st house or the 7th house, then the pada always goes to the 10th house. That's the other exception. Okay, simple, right? If so the pada is never in the 1st or the 7th house. You can never have the pada in the 1st or the 7th house. Okay, that's how you find the pada. Pretty simple. Now, the Upapada is the same way. You do the same thing. There's a little bit of difference though. Some people do, most Vedic astrologers use the equal house system. So they're using, all of Taurus is the 1st house, all of Gemini is the 2nd house, all of Cancer is the 3rd house, and so on, right? Okay. But I don't do it that way. I use house cusps, and house cusps, I use the midheaven or the 10th house cusp, and that usually always falls, it's basically the same in all different across different house systems except for the equal house system. I use Campanus personally. There's Placidus, there's others, but I use Campanus. So wherever the 10th house cusp falls, let's just say it falls in the 10th sign, which is Aquarius, okay? Wherever the 10th house cusp falls, you use that as the second ascendant, or you count from the 10th house cusp, and let's say, okay, his 10th house cusp is in Aquarius, so where's Saturn? It's here in Virgo, so that's 8 houses away. So you would count 8 houses, it's in Virgo, so then you would count 8 from Saturn, 7, 8, which would be the moon. That's his Upapada, the secondary pada. Now there's a lot of controversy about what's the pada, okay, or the Upapada, I'm sorry. Some people use it as the Upapada of the 2nd house, and some people use it as the Upapada of the 12th house. I use it as the Upapada of the 10th house. That is the secondary pada in the way I do it. And just so you know, I learned astrology from Ernst Wilhelm, and this is how he does it. And he's explained it in all, thoroughly in all of his videos and books, and I'm not going to go through that all again. Just, if you're interested, you can visit his website at astrologyvideos.com. I'm not going to go into why. It would take, another hour to explain why, but just suffice to say that I do use the Upapada of the 10th house. For me, that's what I use, and I found it to work incredibly well. And it works very well on George R. Martin's chart too, as I'm going to show in a minute. Okay, so that's how you find the Upapada. Now, everything that applies to the Atmakaraka also applies to the Pada and also applies to the Upapada. So you have three things here, three identity factors. You have the Atmakaraka, which is it's most important in the Navamsha. The placement of the Atmakaraka in the Navamsha is called the Swa or the Swamsha, and that is where you find a lot of things about career, someone's mundane deity, someone's spiritual life, who they're going to marry, what kind of spouse they have, even some of their illnesses, which I'll get into in subsequent videos. And then you have the Pada, and then you have the Upapada. And everything that applies to the Atmakaraka also applies to the Pada and the Upapada. I know it's a little, it's really not that complicated at all. Jaimini is a very eloquent and simple system, I think, and on top of being extremely accurate. So, okay, so that's the Upapada. I do the Upapada of the 10th house. Now, to find what, between the Pada and the Upapada, to find which is stronger or which you're going to kind of go on, you look at how many planets are in that sign. So in George R. Martin's case, his Pada is Leo. He has one planet there, Venus, and he's got the Upapada here. Then he's got the sun or the moon there. Now, we're going to look at for the writing combinations, we're going to use his Upapada, because writing combinations have the moon involved, always. The moon has to be involved in these combinations. And the reason that is because the moon is the mind in Vedic astrology. And it's very much an identity factor in Vedic astrology, much more than the sun is. And the mind, when writing is so important because everything is written. When we watch television, when we go to movies, when we play video games, everything that we are experiencing and watching has been written down first. And, scripted, you can say. When we read a book, when we play video games, I already mentioned that. But most things that we learn from and experience are written down first, and they put impressions in our mind. So the moon is always involved in these combinations. So if you have the moon with your Atmakaraka, or if the moon is your Atmakaraka, and you have to have the moon in the first, second, third, or fifth house from your Atmakaraka, your Pada, or your Upapada. Or if the moon is your Atmakaraka, let's say, okay, I'll give you an example. George R. Martin's moon is here in Aries, and it is not the Atmakaraka, but it is in his Upapada. The fifth from Aries. Now, this is a technique where it's based on signs, not houses. Okay, so Aries we count forward because it's a masculine sign. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. here he has Venus. If you have Venus, Jupiter, or Mercury, either any of those three planets in the first, second, third, or fifth, then that is a riding combination. Okay? So it's the moon with Jupiter, the moon with Venus, or the moon with Mercury. And they have to be in the first, second, third, or fifth from your Atmakaraka, or from your Upapada, or your Pada. Now, George R.R. Martin has Venus here in the fifth. That's a riding combination because this is his Upapada. Aries is his Upapada. It's not, his Atmakaraka is the sun, actually. And we're going to see this riding combination in his Navamsha from the Swa, okay? So, here's George R.R. Martin. Oh, and another thing I want to mention, too. The sign of Cancer, which is the sign that the moon rules, the sign of Cancer can also give this riding combination if you have one of these planets in the sign of Cancer, one of the riding planets, either Venus, Jupiter, or Mercury. Now, Jupiter, Jaimini says that Jupiter makes the most exalted rider. And the reason he says that is because Jupiter is philosophy, wisdom, spirituality, that kind of thing. And they put so much emphasis on those types of things and in that time. And so if you have Jupiter there, that usually makes you a Brahmin author, as they would say. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be more successful. It means that what you write about is more lofty, or loftier. But so that's one thing. Now, Venus makes a person a poet. Venus also can make a person prophetic, that can tell the future. It can make a good astrologer or psychic. That's something totally different. But in the writing, it usually makes someone a poet. Now, these are general rules. They're not hard and fast rules. They're general. In this case, George R. Martin doesn't write poetry. He writes stories, or he writes fantasy fiction. So it doesn't really apply here. But that's kind of a general rule that you go by. Venus will make a person a poet if it's in these combinations. Now, the Mercury is the third. Jaimini mentions that thirdly, and that's like the third rider, meaning the not as successful as the Jupiter moon combination or the Venus moon combination. It's the third down, number 3. But it also will give a rider. And if you look at J.K. Rowling's chart, she's got that moon Mercury combination. And she's one of the most successful authors there are. So it's not a hard and fast rule. It's just a general rule. But usually Mercury will make somebody write technical type things. Because it gives a very technical mind. Also, like do-it-yourself type things. How to that type of thing. So, but that's like I said, a general rule. It's not hard and fast. You'll see a lot of authors like that will write fantasy fiction or period pieces, that type of thing with Moon Mercury conjunction. Or a Moon Mercury combination. Remember, it's in the 5th, or the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 5th. Okay. Now, George R.R. Martin has it twice. Remember what I said about Cancer. Okay. His Atmakaraka is the sun. So the sun is in Virgo. We count backwards. 1, 2, 3. There's Venus in Cancer. Okay. And so Venus in Cancer. Cancer will give the effects of the moon. Because the moon rules Cancer, and the moon will make, it's the natural 4th house, and the 4th house is the mind, the emotions. So he has it twice. George R. Martin has it twice. Another example, if you want to look it up, if you have Kala, the software that I use, or you can even, do it yourself. If you have Solar Fire, you can make, the South Indian chart. But J.K. Rowling is a really good example. Mark Twain is a really good example. And remember, this also applies to the Atmakaraka, because, you know, his Atmakaraka is the sun. And as an example, I'll give an example too. In my chart, my Atmakaraka is Saturn in the Swamsha, and I've got the Moon and Venus there. I've written 3 books. I've written 1 about astrology and 2 books of fantasy fiction. So, and it doesn't, I, you know, haven't been successful with it. I can't make a living off of it, but I have written and gotten them published. So, so yeah, that's it can work with the Atmakaraka, it can work from the Pada, and it can work from the Upapada. Now, in addition to that, not everyone with these combinations is going to be a writer. You'll see sometimes they have, oh, you have writing ability. Oh, well, I'm not a writer. Oh, okay. What makes a writer is you have to have in addition to these combinations, you have to have certain houses involved, because certain houses are writing. The 9th house is the house of telling tales or stories or myths, legends, that kind of thing. You have to have the 9th house involved, and you either have to have the 9th lord, the 9th house, or the 9th lord Rashi aspecting these combinations in some way. If you don't know what Rashi aspects are, go to my Jaimini Occult Astrology 2. That I explain Rashi aspects there. Yeah, so that's it. You have to have the 9th house involved. And the reason that is the 9th house is, you know, telling tales. And when we watch a movie, when we read fiction of some type, or play a video game, you know, whatever it is, the tale works on our subconscious mind. And that's why, you know, it's so, instead of just giving you technical instructions and kind of dry, boring, you know, philosophical precepts, telling a story would kind of draw you in. It would draw your mind in and subtly change your mind and put ideas inside of your head that you would never have before. And you can look at life in a different way, from a different perspective, from one of the characters. So that's why the 9th house is so important. Now, to write technical things, the 9th house is also philosophy too. So to write philosophy and, you know, and also to write about higher knowledge, which is pretty much philosophy, but it's also astrology, believe it or not, or anything that expands your mind, you know, spiritual subjects, then that's also the 9th house. Now, to write technical manuals or do-it-yourself type things, that's more 3rd house. So the 3rd house would have to be involved. You know, that's skills. The 3rd house is, Jaimini calls it basic instructions, or like elementary instructions. Learning things, you know, when you were a kid in school, at, you know, elementary school, or I don't know what they call it now, middle school, when you learn your ABCs, when you learn how to do astrology, when you learn how to do calculus, you know, whatever it is, you're learning something different. You're learning the steps involved to make it happen. That's the 3rd house. So, yeah, that's what has to be involved. I know you probably have a lot of questions, you know, if you're an astrologer. And if you do, please write them to me in the comments. And also, you know, I am giving readings again. So if you're interested in a reading, then go to my website. I'll put that down in the description. And like I said, I'm going to be making more videos. It's you know, if I talk too much, I don't have a good Mercury. So when if I talk too much, I get really tired and flustered a little bit. But which I'm kind of feeling that now. The lights, you know, hit me. But and like I said, I'm going to go more into health and fitness and kind of, you know, dance that I did for many years. So check that out too. Okay. And if you liked this video, please hit like button. Okay. Thanks for watching. Bye.